I live in the UK. I've been working as a qualified nurse since 2018, with a specialization in stroke and stroke rehabilitation. To supplement my income, I occasionally work at a private nursing home. Around 6 months ago, a new resident, whom we'll call Jenny, moved into the home for palliative care due to her terminal bowel cancer. Soon after, she discovered that the cancer had spread to her liver, lungs, and brain, leaving her with only a few months to live. After spending about 2 months with us, Jenny started to become anxious when we helped her back to her room in the evenings and prepared her for the night. She would exclaim, "Be careful of the children," or "Don't fall in the river." When we inquired about these comments, she told us that she could see a river flowing through her room with many children playing in it. She wasn't frightened by the children, but she was concerned about us accidentally hurting them. We, the doctors and nurses, assumed that her brain metastases and opioid medication were causing these hallucinations, so we humored her by avoiding the spots she pointed out. Sadly, Jenny passed away a couple of months later, and I hadn't given much thought to her river and the children since then. Fast forward 2 weeks, and a new resident, Sarah, moved into Jenny's old room. It's important to note that Sarah had never met Jenny and wouldn't have known anything about her. At first, Sarah seemed to settle in well, but one night she adamantly refused to go back to her room. She complained about the noise and said she didn't like how close they all got. Confused, we asked her to explain, and that's when she mentioned Jenny. I was stunned. Sarah went on to say that Jenny and the children make so much noise when they're playing, and it keeps me up all night. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and since then, I've been uneasy about entering that room. I've always been a skeptic, but I can't find any logical explanation for this. I've asked other staff members, and no one has mentioned Jenny or the children in the river to Sarah. I'm left wondering if there's another explanation for all of this. To start out, you need a little backstory to show how I got into this situation. When I got out of high school around 2003, finding a job was difficult, so I took whatever horrible jobs I could to get by. When I found a job cleaning fire and water damage full-time, I was excited to have steady income and start saving, but this quickly turned into a nightmare that I had to endure for almost 2 years. The company I worked for put me on my first job, which was a water damage claim where a basement flooded with sewage, so after a few days of work we finished, and it was on to the next job. My boss then called me into his office the next morning and told me about a special crew that he was setting up, and asked if I would be the crew leader supervising 3 other guys that were just hired. I found this strange, as I had only been working there a total of around 3 days, but figured my work ethic was already paying off and I would get a raise. I only made 10 an hour to start. Not only did I not get the raise, but I got no training in the new position other than a work van with cleaning material, and the phone numbers for the 3 new guys that also were hired in to do fire water damage cleanup. The boss told me what tools were best to use, and what cleaning products to use to sanitize, along with where everything was located in the van, with hazmat suits and respirators. But he was vague about what kind of things I would clean up. He just said the situations were always different and I would get detailed instructions each job. He called my position CSC crew leader. The boss told me that I would never have to see the deceased, as the coroner would have the remains gone by the time my crew got there, and to use my logic to determine what needed to be removed from the homes and what could be cleaned. The first job I had in my new position, which the boss told me about when I got to the office, was cleaning up the remains of an elderly man or woman who died in their house and had been laying in chair. When we arrived, the coroner had me come inside to show me a few things that were considered hazardous material and needed to be removed due to the risk of disease. I guess my boss knew a few people from the county coroner's office, and much of the work came from their recommendations. Not only was the deceased still in the house, but was fully visible to me and the other guy, and you could smell the rot through the masks as the house had no AC, and this was mid-June. The coroner was backed up and waiting on additional people to show up to load the body as it was falling apart. And I call the body it because I honestly couldn't tell if it was male or female and was trying not to look too long as it was disturbing. The other 3 guys I worked with handled it well, but 2 got sick from the smell and has to go outside to puke. We all waited outside after the coroner showed us the chair, the fluids that leaked into the carpet, and the basement where the fluids went through the subfloor and puddled on some boxes in the basement. The coroner's support arrived and took the deceased out, and me and the crew started working. After about 5 minutes, weird things started to happen. The first of which was when I began to disassemble the chair. I had removed the back of the chair and was putting it into the special hazmat bags that I was given, and the base started to rock when I was about 10 feet away, putting the bag with the back of the chair by the front door. Nobody else was in the same room as the other guys were in the basement dealing with moving boxes. I brushed it off and took apart the base of the chair as much as I could, and when I got it into the bag, I got a chill up my back and then began feeling sick. I just figured it was the shock of what I was cleaning hitting me and pushed on, even though the chill was strange as I was very hot in full hazmat in June. Next was removing the carpet and assessing the floor to see if it would be able to be cleaned, or if I had to remove a section of the floor. So I called the boss to ask him, and he told me just to pour this special cleaner on the area to soak into the floorboards and it would be fine. So I got it out of the truck where he said it was and brought it inside. When I got inside, all three of the guys in the basement were scrambling to get out of the basement, tripping over each other, and all three ran outside. When I asked them what was up, all three said there was someone in the cluttered basement, and they assumed it was a homeless person or junkie. Detroit has many issues with these kinds of things. I listened at one of the open windows to the basement. It's kind of the first thing we did when we started working. Open any window possible, prop the doors open. So maybe someone got inside then, or possibly before we got there and was hiding. After listening a few minutes and hearing nothing, me and another of the workers went inside, armed with a mag light and a piece of metal fence post, and searched the basement. Nothing was down there but the footprints of the shoe covers we used. But when we started up the stairs, we heard a horrible hacking cough from somewhere in the basement. When we looked for it, there was nothing. But the corner of the basement had a bunch of dust stirred up like someone was moving things very recently that weirded us both out. We called the guys back in and they got back to the boxes, but all of them kept feeling like they were being touched while throwing away material from the boxes that got fluids on them. I went back to my upstairs job, but found that the cleaner I put next to the floorboards was gone, and I started getting frustrated as it was the only jug I had of this cleaner, and I clearly remember it being set next to the area before the guys ran up the stairs and my attention was redirected. I began to take out trash figuring I would find it eventually, or the basement guys took it for the floor, and I found it on its side, behind the bag that had the back of the chair. This is impossible. There were like 6 other bags in front of this one near the front door, and this was a gallon bottle of cleaner. Again, I got a chill, but this one was brought on by what sounded like a whisper that I could not make out the words to. Cleaned the floorboards and moved out trash. Job complete. That night, each member of my crew had a dream about an older man telling us that we are not welcome in his home, touching his belongings, and we need to leave. In my dream, I was alone in his house. The old man cried and told me I was destroying his things and he couldn't replace anything. He was trying to push me out of his house, but it was like I was ignoring him, even when he would push me and scream at me. No reaction from me. He then threw my cleaner into the garbage pile I had made by the front door, exactly where I found it. 2 of the 3 guys in the crew told me their dreams about the old man pushing them as they went through boxes of ruined pictures and other old stuff that needed to be thrown out due to the risk of disease from his fluids. They also said it was like they had no control and were on autopilot. They said they were so sad but couldn't do anything. The thing that got me about the dreams of the other 2 guys was they both said the man was getting so upset that he began violently coughing, and that the man kept grabbing their arms when they would touch boxes or throw things into the trash. Neither of the guys were in the house when me and the other guy heard the coughing from the basement. The guy that went into the basement with me said he had a dream, but all he remembered was waking up sad like he did something wrong and had a horrible coughing fit, which might just be a coincidence, but I connected it in my mind as relating to the other dreams. We all talked about it and came to the conclusion that we were all just having a reaction to a situation, and it was nothing more than our brains coping with what we had to do. I'm very into psychology, so I rationalized it the best I could, and we hoped for better assignments the next day. Next few jobs were not so bad. Cleaning up blood at a home invasion, no casualty, but huge mess. Then there was a few other bloody crime scenes with casualties, but nothing notable happened. About 2 weeks into the job, we began to learn the tricks of the trade, and were split into 2 different groups that I was responsible to manage as crew leader, so I would have to go to different sites if the other 2 guys had an issue or didn't know what to do. I thought I was getting used to the job as well as the other guys, as we had no other experiences like the first job, but I was wrong. The next job that there was activity was a suicide of a man that was middle-aged. The coroner had already removed the body, but it was a mess. The guy had shot himself with what I think was a large caliber handgun or shotgun, as the spray was everywhere in the basement in like a second living room. There were skull fragments lodged in drywall, brain matter all over, and again he was not found for a bit, so the smell was horrible. First step in cleaning this was using our backpack vacuum cleaner to suck up all the biomaterial. The coroner told us when we went in that he and his partner were extremely uneasy in the house and it felt strange, and we immediately started getting a claustrophobic, suffocating feeling when we went into the basement as well. To make matters worse, the family of the man had came over and were crying upstairs, but the vacuum noise helped to cancel out that. While I was cleaning, the power to the lights went out and it was completely pitch black. This was strange because my vacuum was still powered. My crewmate started screaming at this point, so I turned off my vacuum and climbed off my ladder. I thought maybe he touched a wire to the lights, but when my vacuum unit was turned off, he was still screaming and I could hear things being knocked over. I started fumbling around for my flashlight on my tool belt and yelled for my friend asking what was going on. But all I got back was panicked screaming. Then I saw in the pitch black something darker that was moving in my direction, and I will admit I freaked out. I slipped trying to back up, still looking in my belt for the flashlight, and found it when my back hit the basement wall. I turned on the light aimed at the blackest shape I have ever seen, and when the light turned on, I saw the shape of a man wearing a flannel shirt, beard, and an expression like he was about to attack me. Then it was just gone. I found my crewmate shortly after and he was fine. I still am not sure what to make of all of this. Oxford, Ohio, a small college town home to Miami University, holds an eerie reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. Tales of spirits, apparitions, and unexplained events have been whispered about for generations, but none captured the imagination quite like the ghostly legend of Oxford Milford Road. Back in the 1940s, a young couple found love amidst the disapproval of the woman's parents. They belonged to different social classes, and their love was forbidden. Determined to see each other, the couple devised a secret plan to meet under the cloak of darkness. Each night, after her parents had gone to bed, the young woman would sneak out of her farmhouse and flash the lights of her parents' car 3 times. Upon seeing the signal, her love-struck suitor would start his motorcycle and race down the moonlit road to meet her. But fate had other plans. One fateful night, as the young man hurried to his beloved, he lost control of his motorcycle while taking a sharp turn just before her house. The accident was brutal, and he succumbed to his injuries, leaving behind a heartbroken lover and a tale that would haunt Oxford for years to come. Rumor has it that the ghost of the young man still roams the stretch of Oxford Milford Road, eternally waiting for his lover's signal. Years later, Brad Culp, a student at Miami University, heard the chilling story and decided to write about it for an on-campus magazine he had started. After publishing the article, Culp found himself unable to shake off the haunting tale. He grew more and more curious, wondering if there was any truth to the legend. One night, Culp convinced his girlfriend, who would later become his wife, and a friend to venture out to the infamous stretch of road. They wanted to put the tale to the test and see if the ghostly motorcycle rider still awaited his lover's call. As they approached the abandoned farmhouse, Culp had an idea. With a mischievous grin, he pitched it to his girlfriend. Though apprehensive, she agreed, and Culp pulled into the farmhouse driveway. With bated breath, he killed the engine and flashed his car lights 3 times. To their utter disbelief, a single headlight appeared in the distance, moving slowly towards them. As the light drew nearer, the air grew colder, and an eerie silence enveloped them. Culp's girlfriend clung to him, her fear palpable. As the light approached, it seemed as if a collision was imminent. In a panic, Culp switched on his car's lights, half expecting to catch a prankster in the act. But to their astonishment, there was nothing there. The single headlight had vanished into thin air. Dumbfounded, they stepped out of the car, searching for an explanation for the mysterious light. Despite their efforts, they found none. The experience left them shaken, and the story became a cornerstone of their relationship, retold around campfires and whispered to friends. To this day, Brad Culp and his wife maintain the truth of their encounter. They firmly believe that on that fateful night, they crossed paths with the lovelorn ghost of Oxford Milford Road. So, if you ever find yourself in Oxford, Ohio, consider taking a detour to the haunted stretch of road. Gather your courage, flash your lights 3 times, and see if you too can summon the unwavering light of Oxford Milford Road. But be warned, for some stories are better left undisturbed, and the truth can sometimes be more terrifying than fiction. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more true scary stories.